What's going on, everybody? My name is Mark Blanton. I'm here with David DeBonis, and we are here on the Reclamation podcast, where we provide you with the framework and real life examples to reclaim your health.
Yeah. So today on the podcast, we're going to do a little bit of an introduction. So we're going to talk about, I got this written down as like my notes for the whole podcast, who we are, why we're starting this podcast, a little bit about Mark and my journey, and what it is that reclamation means for us and what it could mean for you.
Yeah, and the fun thing is like with reclamation and even health, because that's, our biggest, at least for both of us, since I've known you for the past 5 months. I mean, it's all been about a health journey. And, defining what health means is huge because, we have just in this country, it's 330 million people, if not more, because, we keep adding and subtracting every day. So, like, it's an ever evolving number. But, David, I'd love to hear from you. Like, what does health mean for you? Like, how would you define health?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it's a loaded question. For me, it's always been like I always love this description of it as it's like for me it's the mind, body, and spirit. It's all three sides of those, and you can elaborate on that more. Like we've talked about this, like you can say like mental, emotional, but for me it's like mind, and then the body and the spirit, and then if all of those things are functioning at optimum capacity, that's what health is for me. Yeah. But the thing is, if one's failing, then they're all failing. That's been my experience with it. So
like a snowball effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I mean, like I can totally agree with you on that. Like mind, body, and spirit, that's a phenomenal like framework for it. I like to get a little down and dirty with it. And like so one of my mentors, I did a lot of success training and a lot of mentorship and a lot of whether it's sales or personal development. Spent years learning from him. And we always talked about the 6 pillars of success. What I realized with the 6 pillars of success is that they're actually, they're interchangeable with the 6 pillars of health. So those 6 pillars, for those that don't know, are mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, social, and physical. Now, I didn't put those in any order, so don't feel like, this is the order of
not
importance.
Consciously, anyway.
Yeah, not consciously, but if I were to put them in order, let's see.
Yeah, what would be your top? What would be of those 6 that you just listed?
I'd probably say mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, social, and financial. And I mean, physical and emotional, I think, are interchangeable. But with the, 330 million people just in the United States, we all live in our own reality of what we perceive to be the world based on our traumas, our personal experiences, our conditioning. We are a reflection of what we consume. So based on what you consume, that essentially creates who you are.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's, like you said, it's such a loaded question.
It is.
I mean, it can be so interchangeable.
So why would you put mental first then? Like tell me more about what it is why the mental is so valued to you.
So your mentality is where everything begins. So the reason why mental is above emotional is because emotions change. One thing I learned is with emotions, there's a difference between emotion and passion. Passion doesn't change. It's how you feel about something, but like you believe it to your core, you embody that instead of being emotional where like right now you could be happy, super, motivated, but then in 10 minutes, you could stub your toe and then you're just pissed off.
Yeah, absolutely. The emotions are very volatile.
With mental or your mentality, that sets the framework for everything. You get out of bed, and if you say the first thought out of bed is, "Oh, today's gonna suck," it's like, what is it? We're in Colorado for those that don't know, and it's 18 degrees today.
I don't know. It's cool. It's cool.
Yeah,
out.
it's pretty chilly. It's supposed to be like -13 tomorrow. So like you wake up, and like, oh God, it's cold. I hate this. It's gonna be a miserable. If you say it's gonna be a miserable day, it's gonna be a miserable day.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
your framework. So if you wake up and you're like, you know what, the day's a great day. It may not, it's a start of a new day. I'm alive. I have heat. I have food. I have clothes. I have a vehicle. If you have a vehicle, whether it's a bike or, anything, bike, car, public transportation, you have somewhere, some form of transportation. And that starts your day.
Yeah.
Like, what about you? Like, what would you rank out of those as your top?
Well, I like what you're saying about the emotion. I just want to start by saying the emotional. Yeah, a mentor of mine, he always says your emotions don't matter. Like, stop thinking about how you feel. It doesn't matter how you feel.
Exactly.
Because sometimes you're gonna be putting the work in and you're gonna feel like
Yeah.
shit, and sometimes you're gonna be putting the work in and you're gonna feel great. So it's
Oh
like,
yeah, you're
but
gonna be,
it's,
on cloud nine, or you're gonna be,
yeah.
feeling like trash. I mean,
Yeah, but like you still got to put the work in. You still got to
exactly.
wake up. And I think mindset's important for me. I don't know. I think the spiritual is the highest for me.
Okay.
But I don't. I think that it's also one of those weird things where they're so intertwined that it's like they're entangled. You can't have one without the
Exactly.
other. So
Yeah.
it's like my spiritual belief system is completely entangled with my mentality and my thoughts. So it's
Yeah.
like gratitude is part of my spirituality.
100%.
And you were just talking about waking up and being in gratitude. So it's like if
Yeah.
I'm not in gratitude, I don't feel like I'm in a very spiritually fit condition that day, a very like
Yeah.
spiritually contented place.
Yeah.
So then it's like the mentality and spiritual, those two things go hand in hand for me.
Absolutely. I mean, if we're looking at pillars, so like if you picture, like one of those ancient Greek buildings,
Yeah.
where you have these 6 pillars, like no single pillar is more important than the other because they're all kind of in the same realm. But like if you were to picture, a circular Greek building with these 6 pillars, and you walk into it, if we were to go from left to right on where we would put stories of warriors or achievements of society, that's kind of how I would look at it, where like you start here with your mentality, and then spirituality is like literally right there, because a spiritual mindset and your mentality in general, like spirituality and mentality, they're almost one and the same, but they're slightly different. But then like even that slight difference is like so huge. Like,
Yeah.
but and again, like this is such a subjective thing. And one of the things we were talking about the other day is how there's so many opinions and viewpoints of things, where that's why personally I believe that's why there's so much discord around the world, is because we have the same framework. It's all, success leaves breadcrumbs. It's the same path. It's slightly different for each of us because we're all individuals. But we all want to feel so individualistic that we start warping and distorting what the process is. Instead of being like, you know what? This is the framework for health. These 6 pillars is the framework of health. Mind, body, and spirit broken down a little more specific. You have the 6 pillars of health, so you go from 3 to 6. And then where you go from there, so based on your personal life, your personal experiences, then it gets a little more fun. It gets a little more customizable. You got your own pizzazz to it, as the kids say nowadays. But, if we can all agree, like this is the framework, this is how we judge health, and then based on your own health goals, because I know that we have similar health goals, but they're also very different because our journeys are so different. And, as long as we can agree on the framework, then we can come together as a society and like really build each other up. Because if we're all focused on the same pillars, well, then how easy is it? Like great example, and I'm pretty sure this is accurate. When on a spirituality front, like let's say you're more evolved than I am, but if for me, then we go, maybe I'm a little more, and this is totally not accurate because we're on a really good like similar wavelength. Let's say I'm a little more evolved mentally than you are. So then I come to you for spiritual guidance, then you come to me for mental guidance, and then we both elevate and build these pillars stronger at the same time.
Yeah.
We're not like doing this weird, grab ass round away thing of, trying to figure out where each other are at. You're like, you know what? How's your mentality? Where are you at with spirituality? Like, how's your physical fitness? Like, what do you do? Like, how do you train? And stuff like that. So,
Well, it's like the types of questions we end up asking people when we get questions about health. Is it's like, you know, the first question, and we've talked about this, is the first question, what's your diet look like? You know what I mean? They're like,
Exactly.
hey, I'm dealing with this. What's your diet like? That's the first
Yep.
question that we go to because, you know, if you're eating like Wonder Bread every day for like 3 meals a day, you know, Wonder Bread and like nitrate full deli meats on the sandwiches,
And
you're
you
like,
wonder why you're dealing with inflammation.
yeah, exactly. So, but just to give the audience a little bit of context, so Mark and I are both in the we are both in the natural health space, kind of on different avenues. I've gotten my CNC, and I'm still working on figuring out exactly where I want to take that. And then Mark is in school for to get his naturopathic. What is it?
So I'm currently in school at the Trinity School of Natural Health to become a traditional naturopath.
Yeah.
So it's a long process because there's different stuff. So right now I'm a certified Zyto professional, which Zyto is absolutely fascinating. I'm almost done with my Bach flower professional certification, and then after that, thinking about either doing iridology or jumping. And well, there's an endocannabinoid course that I really want to do too. And then I want to jump into my CNHP, which is Certified Natural Health Practitioner.
And is that like a step in the direction of getting your?
It's the first of 3 steps for traditional naturopath. So then once I do that, I can board certify. So for Colorado, you can operate under the board certification of a doctor of natural medicine. And each state's different. So based on where you live and what you want to do, you don't have to board certify. You can. It really helps. Especially in the natural medicine space.
Is your naturopath? We both have naturopaths. Is your naturopath board certified?
Yes.
Yeah. So
she's board certified as a doctor of natural medicine. She's master herbalist, Zyto, Bach, iridology. I think she does acupuncture.
Oh, the bioelectrical massage.
Oh, that's so freaking fascinating. Bioelectrical massage, PEMF, which I just forget what it stands for. Pulse electromagnetic frequency. Yeah, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And that stuff, life changing.
So then, how did you end up at your naturopath? Because that's like, I mean, that's the question. It's like, how does somebody end up at natural medicine? Because generally, based on the way our society thinks, that's not the first stop on the block. You know, you didn't just think, oh,
end up there.
You know, I have this issue. I'm going to go straight to a naturopath. Most people don't end up there immediately. That's like the last stop on the block.
Or sometimes ever.
I know,
decades.
which is depressing.
It is fucking depressing that, like, you can spend your entire life going through the channels, doing what you were conditioned to do, and still not having results.
Yeah.
And you still look at natural medicine as like this voodoo stuff, like sitting there with the little dolls and like,
Have you ever seen like that Friends episode where Ross has the thing on he's got the thing on his butt, and it's Guru Saj comes in and he's like, I know, it's a kundus, and then he's like trying to take it off and then it just gets caught on his, anyway, it's like, that's how people think of natural medicine. They think it's so woo-woo and out there, and like somebody's just like gonna like, the voodoo dolls and the whole.
It blows my mind. I mean, well, like, do you want me to go all the way back to like my initial, all right. So let's see. So this dates back all the way when so I'm 27 now. This was back when I was 18, 19 years old. Been through plenty of trauma in my childhood, lots of different trials and tribulations. And I ended up on depression medication, SSRIs. So
do you remember which one? Does it even matter? I don't know.
No, I mean, by the time I hit fuck it, the doctor I was seeing at the time, he put me on 4 or 5 different ones in like 2 or 3 months. And he's like, oh, this one's not working? So let's try this one. Oh, this one's not working?
That's a quick turnover.
Dude, it was horrible.
Yeah, I bet.
It was horrible.
I'm sure that was a great few months.
That was rough. Apologies to the girl I was dating at the time. That was not fun. But the wild thing, so like, a big motivator when you jump into natural health is you get sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah, absolutely.
And 18, 19 years old, one of the downsides, the side effects of an SSRI is, I'm going to speak plainly because we agree we're going to speak plainly. For men, your sex drive goes into into the shitter.
Yeah, you can't get hard.
Exactly. Dude, I like literally.
I've been there. Yeah, I was on them too. Yeah.
18, 19 years old. Like, I mean, shit, I could fuck a hole through a brick wall. But, I'm on these meds and I'm all over the place. And, like, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not supposed to be a thing. Like, my testosterone's through the roof. I'm playing football. I'm training on the side. I was doing P90X and I was running, God, what was it, 5-10 miles a day at some points. And I was like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm sick of this shit.
Yeah.
Like, no, this isn't acceptable. So then I took it upon myself to research what depression was.
Mm-hmm.
Like chemically, what is depression in the body? 18, 19 years old, just out of high school.
Yeah.
No knowledge, like in
You
anything.
don't got that foundation in
Yeah.
biology
I'm
and
like,
neuroscience.
I was in direct sales. I'm like, yeah, health stuff. It's great.
Yeah. Well, that's where we all start. That's where we all
exactly.
start.
It's something. It's a product. It's a service. It's a company. It's a Instagram page, YouTube videos. And then, so I broke down what depression was in the brain, and more or less, now this is extenuating circumstances, everybody's got their own story and their own, baseline. But for me, it was the lack of certain amino acids that attribute to mood stabilization. So I was like, okay, so now that I know where that is, I know what that is, where do I find that in the most concentrated form? So I ended up finding a product that had a herb called Moringa oleifera, or a lot of people hear it as moringa. It's known overseas in different countries as the miracle tree. And
is it Ayurvedic?
Yes, yeah. I think, yeah.
I don't know if it is. I know it's from...
I think they do use it in Ayurvedic medicine for some things. But ultra powerful herb. And it had, just so happened, all the amino acids that I needed in plant form, and that's something we'll get into later, that it was the simplest, easiest 1-2 punch I could find.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, all right, so where's the best version? So I found a direct sales company that sold a product. Didn't taste the best, but, at this point, I want my wiener to work, and I want to stop feeling like a zombie all the time.
Yeah,
because either the meds, like, they wouldn't give me an in-between dose. It was this one to this one. So it was like, either it didn't work, or my wiener didn't work.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? At this point, I have nothing to lose. So started that, and now, what I'm saying, do not take this as medical advice. This is not medical advice.
Yeah.
A lot of what I have done would break most people. I did not do things in the most controlled, refined pattern. I'm one of those people that sheer will gets me through pretty much everything. I think it was probably 2 or 3 days of overlap of this supplement, and which is no longer in existence that I can find. And my SSRIs, and I stopped taking the SSRIs, which I had tried to before. And anybody who's taken SSRIs, I know you can agree that that's just bad news bears. That's a shit show.
Oh, just stopping it really quickly.
Yeah, just cold turkey.
Oh,
even if you wean off of it, still pulling that out of your system, and nothing happened. Once it cleansed out of my body, because this moringa also has a very cleansing effect, it kicked it right out of my body. And I was like, okay. So I go back to my doctor like 2-3 weeks later, and I'm like just rolling. I'm like, this is amazing. She almost strangled me.
Yeah,
she was not happy with me. But I brought her a sample of it.
I'm sure she...
And explained to her my research and brought my phone and showed her some stuff. And
this is a traditional MD, right?
Yep, this is a traditional MD. And now this is all...
And when I say traditional, yeah. When I to clarify for the audience, when I say traditional, I mean in the American context of traditional, like...
medical doctor.
Medical doctor, you go in, you get a script, maybe you get a surgery. Maybe you get prescribed to another doctor. Those are the 3 things they do. Prescriptions, surgeries, or they prescribe you to another doctor. Yep. That's what you're getting. Yeah. You're not walking out of there with
drugs,
herbs.
Radiation,
you're not walking
surgery.
Yeah.
And so I mean from then, now the journey from there, so anybody that's been depressed, prescribed medication, it is always imperative that you seek therapy. Because a lot of what ties into depression is your mindset. So a lot of it's thought processes, thought processes, a lot of it's mentality, it's mindset, it's a lot of what we're talking about in health, your spiritual, health, your physical health, your mental health, emotional health, your social health. And really the only one's financial, but even then, like the therapist I saw for a while, who, Bob, you're the man, literally saved me. Um, it's necessary
Mm-hmm.
because, you can get off of the medication. It's possible. But if you don't reframe the mindset, you're never going to get out of the darkness. You can't get out of the hole.
Yeah.
And I think total, since I was 19, well, let's just say in life, I think it's about 3 to 5 years. Yeah, it was about 3 to 5 years. So then we fast forward to about 22, 23. I got out of a not a very healthy relationship. I was young. We were both very young. It
Mm-hmm.
just wasn't a healthy dynamic. Tried to make it work longer than I should have. You know, learned a lot, about that, about myself, about what I wanted. And, honestly, I used to look at it with regret. And now, honestly, it was a catalyst for so much change in my life
Mm-hmm.
mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, social, the whole nine. And then I moved to Colorado about 23 ish. I went on a personal development retreat in Carlsbad, California. Most expensive weekend of my life,
Yeah.
but the most
Yeah.
the most transformational, honestly. And came back in a month. I put my month notice in. Like soon as I landed, typed it up on the plane, submitted it as soon as I got there, packed my truck and moved to Colorado. Drove across the country,
Mm.
stayed with my aunt for 9 months, and then so gracious of letting me stay with her while I got on my feet, and then got my own place, and now I'm here.
Yeah.
And then with my naturopath, so about a year and a half ago, March 17th of 2021, I got into a life-threatening car accident. Now, I've had life-threatening head injuries from playing football junior year and sophomore year, no, junior year and senior year. Senior year, that was, catastrophic. It was horrible. And I was told by all these medical professionals that they don't have the technology or the knowledge to repair brain injuries, so you're just stuck. You're gonna have to deal with
Mm-hmm.
it. And so this car accident, now fast forward and rewind. Um, I'm all over the place. It's such a
No, I'm
like
following. I'm tracking.
multifaceted story. Um, so I had mental issues, whether it's cognition, performance. I suck at mental math, I always have, but it got worse after those head injuries. And my physical performance didn't really suffer that much, but that's a whole nother podcast talking about
Mm-hmm.
head injuries and the brain and all that really fun stuff. Um, so I got into this car accident. I have 5 slip discs in my back, in my lower lumbar, pinched nerves the entire left side of my body. So that was excruciating. So anybody that has back pain, you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
And a really, really catastrophic head injury. And from the get go, I went to the insurance, to these doctors to literally for insurance because I had to. I had to go through the motions. But the entire time, I didn't want to take pain medication because I know what they did to my body. It's just toxins.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to find a natural remedy for all these things that I was going through. So my mom graciously, love you, Mom, flew out from Maryland for about a week, and we were working together on the phone. And we found this amazing naturopath in, technically, I think it's Highlands Ranch. It's like the bottom of Aurora. And did a consult with her. And she was like, as soon as you can, pay for your treatment, like, let's go. And unfortunately, it took insurance 6 to 7 months
Oh my God.
to pull their head out of their ass.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, I almost got evicted twice. I went into, God, I think at the end of the day, between personal loans and the debt I racked up from not being able to pay my credit card payments and all of that, it was like 30, 40,000. And, almost losing my apartment and then having this brain injury where like I feel, 30 different emotions in 30 seconds.
Yeah, and it's not like you can go out and get a job like,
Exactly. Couldn't be vertical.
baling hay or anything
Exactly.
because your back's all jacked up.
Couldn't be vertical for more than 15, 20 minutes a day.
Yeah.
And thankfully I had who I had in my life to support me. And as soon as I got that payout 7 months later, so this is probably, we're now October. Yeah, probably about October. of 2021, as soon as I got that payout, like a few days later, I go buy a truck. Had to buy cash because my credit was trashed. 300-point hit, 333-point hit, I think it was.
Jeez.
Something crazy like that. So I had to buy the truck cash. So that's, 35, 40 grand right there. And then my treatment itself, because we went at this hard. It was 5 to 6 hour sessions at least once or twice a week for probably 2 or 3 months. And I mean, shout out to Christy, my naturopath. She helped me put my back together where like these slip disc and pinched nerves no longer an issue. And these physical therapists like, oh, you're gonna have back problems all your life.
Mm-hmm.
So first lie that was told, I was able to put my back together. Then my brain. Now this is the fascinating one. I was slurring my speech. I was stuttering. I was losing my thoughts in the middle of a conversation. And now, because we fast forward 6 months after I got that payout, and I used to be a meat cutter. It's a little chilly in the room, but my hands, if you guys have ever, let's see, what's a good angle? All right, this one. So if you ever use those stim units, you ever seen those fun videos where they put it on your forearm and they try to hold a glass of water and they're just like, eh.
Yeah.
Literally, my hands were shaking. And now, and I cut meat for 6 years. So using those knives, it's a very fine-tuned, meticulous process. And now my hands are back to being steady again. So, no one understands it. I do. People in this natural health, because the body's ability to heal itself is we don't even understand it fully. We have an understanding of the process that go into it, the healing mechanisms, how to manipulate them, how to trigger them, but we don't understand truly how powerful the body is when it comes to healing itself. And just in these, those 6 months, life has gotten a lot busier since then. All those issues went away. My cognition improved, my motor skills improved, my speech improved, and this is going back, freshman year of not
since the first concussion, or
sophomore year, junior year of high school. So we're talking 2012. It's 2022 right now when we're recording this podcast. So what? But I'll wrap it up here soon. And so from there, I meet my naturopath. She tells me about holistic education, that it actually exists. I didn't know it exists. I screwed around in community college for 3 years, and I dropped out because I was like, stupid, overpriced and stupid. And then, I go from being concussed, injured, messed up, to essentially getting a medical degree in natural medicine 6 months to a year later. And then now, because we met about 5 months ago, and just hearing your journey, I mean, in all these aspects, blew my mind. I'm like, holy shit, people really are going through this. And I moved from Maryland. You're a native, right? So, I'm like, this is wild. So let's jump into your story, man. It just what you've told me. It's to see who you are today. Oh man.
I know. Even in the last 6 months, it's been crazy since I transferred to about 6 months or 5 months ago when I met Mark. He's Mark eats like a carnivore, animal-based diet, and I was already on paleo, but I was still really, really, really grasping to the vegetables at this point. But I'm still having issues with my digestion. It had gotten a lot better, but then I finally decided to cut out the vegetables, and this is, like you said, a whole other podcast to unpack here. But finally decided to cut out the vegetables, and it was just being willing to try it, and my digestion's been better than it has been since I was fucking 15 years old right now.
You're sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah.
It's funny, I had somebody reach out to me last night, a friend of mine, and she was telling me that she had basically the same issue. She's like, I don't get it. All these things that people tell me are supposed to be healthy. I'm eating these quinoa bowls with kale. And I'm like, so I just told her, I said, look up oxalates, phthalates, lectins, just look up these things. And she was mind blown. But, let's see. I'd say that my journey with natural health, I don't really know exactly where it started. I mean, you can never really pinpoint it. But the thing that comes to mind is when I was in middle school, in 7th grade, something like that, 8th grade.
Yeah.
I think 8th grade. Well, first I fell off a roof and I
Oof.
broke my arm and I slammed my hip into the concrete. I don't think
Mm.
I broke anything there, but probably wasn't in good shape.
Yeah.
And then I was wrestling later that year, and somebody hit me with a double leg takedown,
Mhm.
and I fell and landed on my elbow against the ground like this, and my shoulder dislocated. So, this one was like just a sublux, so it just kind of
Mhm.
popped right back in.
Yeah.
But still, it was terrifying. I was like, what just happened? So we went to the doctor. We got I think you do X-ray and then you do an MRI.
Mhm.
So I got those things done. I got the X-ray to make sure nothing was broken, and then I eventually got an MRI, and I brought the MRI to a specialist, right? Because
Yeah.
my doctor prescribed me to a shoulder specialist. And I
Mhm.
walk into this room, and I remember my dad's there with me, and this doctor, big, heavy-set dude, comes in, and he's like, he has me start doing some like he holds his hand out, and he
Mhm.
has me do shoulder
Yeah, like that strength
extensions.
test?
Yeah, as
Yeah, yeah.
extensions into his hand, and he looks at the X-ray and he does that, and he's like, "Yeah, your shoulder's screwed. You need surgery." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "This, I need surgery. Like, what are you
Yeah.
talking about?" He's like, "It's weak," and I'm like, "I was just telling you this the other day. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Just talking about
weak.
this the other
Can't
day.
I just strengthen it?" And
Yeah.
it's like, no, it's not going to grow back. You can't do that. So
Yeah.
you need to. So over the course of the next 5 years, because I was a silly teenager, I dislocated it probably another 10 or 15 times,
Yeah.
wakeboarding, rugby, skiing, all the things,
Oh, yeah.
And it eventually got to a point where it was dislocating even in my sleep. I'd wake up
That's the worst.
and I'd literally wake up and it would have dislocated. That's how bad it got.
Yeah.
And then, so I was like, maybe I will have to get this surgery. And it was at this point in my life, when it was dislocating in my sleep, that I went back to training martial arts. I trained martial arts when I was young, and then I'd taken a break for a while. I went back to it. And my trainer was like, you have to be disciplined, but it doesn't have to keep dislocating. Like, you can do this without.
Oh, 100%.
So he basically gave me the confidence to pursue this this natural approach. So it was that same year that I stopped eating gluten.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first step in like kind of my journey towards reducing my chronic inflammation across my body. And then I also started taking collagen supplements.
Oh, hell yeah.
So those two things combined,
Mm-hmm.
and like drinking bone broth and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And since that year, it has not dislocated since.
That's
and
amazing.
Even though I do some shoulder exercises, I'm not like really consistent.
Yeah.
It's 90% diet.
Yeah.
But that's almost 4 years ago now.
Yeah. Which is wild.
And it hasn't dislocated since. So it's like the whole, this is just one example of my whole story, but the whole shoulder thing, the first time it dislocated, the doctor told me,
yeah.
it's going to keep dislocating, you're screwed.
Mhm.
And then after that, it kept dislocating, and it gets worse every time it dislocates. So like it gets basically further and further from being able to be helped is in the medical professional's perspective. But like you said, we need to learn like to give the body what it needs to heal itself. And if you don't give the body what it needs to heal itself.
Yeah. Or you're feeding it things that are preventing it from healing itself. Because that's a huge thing that I'm sure you've experienced as well in your life. Like, if you don't feed yourself properly, you won't heal properly.
Yeah.
It takes longer. It's not as thorough. It's not as permanent, I guess you could say. But, I mean, God, the lies we're told. That'll be a podcast episode name.
What will be?
But yeah, so how did you come about finding your naturopath?
So that's another big part of my story. So the reason I stopped eating gluten wasn't actually because I knew that it had it. At that point, I had no idea that it had anything to do with the whole body's inflammation. It was digestion. I've had issues with digestion since I can remember.
Yeah.
And I remember every day in high school, I'd go, especially like I remember I have this vivid picture of being in my freshman year geometry class after lunch.
Yeah.
And my stomach just being like, not my stomach, like my lower abdomen just being so uncomfortable, like just like grumbling and just being like, twisted and just like constant digestive distress. I thought that was normal. Nobody told me that wasn't normal.
Yeah.
So it was around this time when I was about 13 years old that my stepmom, it was really popular at this time, she adopted the paleo diet.
Okay. My parents have done it.
Yeah. And my
Yeah.
stepmom was serious about it. She got real serious. I mean, she sells 30 books in her. Like she's
Hell
she's a
yeah.
cook. She's a badass. But
Yeah.
she got serious about it. So even though I didn't adopt it fully because
Mhm.
my parents were divorced, I was going back and forth, and I was
Mhm.
basically going between eating this really healthy like paleo food and then going to my mom's where I was eating like cereal and ice cream for dinner. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so, but you know, it at least gave me like a spark, this
Mhm.
idea that like maybe eating different might help.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until later that I actually realized. So I tried paleo,
Mhm.
um, and I was doing paleo for a while, but I wasn't strict about it.
Mhm.
And it really wasn't until in the fall of 2020, I don't know what caused it exactly to this day, but my appendix ruptured.
Ugh.
So
No.
I was supposed to hike him out. It's a total story of some sort of divine intervention. I was supposed to
Yeah.
hike Mount Harvard 14er with my dad that day,
Okay.
and it had already ruptured, I guess, but I didn't know this at this
Mhm.
point. But I'm like sitting on my couch in my apartment. I'm like screaming, I'm like, "Ah!" Like, because there's so much pain.
Yeah.
And my dad's like, I just told him, I was like, I don't think I could go do this mountain today. I think I need to go to the hospital or something. He's like, oh, just go to the urgent care. So I went to the urgent care, and she literally gets me on the table and she presses into my into my pelvis like that, and I'm like, oh, and she's like, oh yeah, your appendix ruptured. You need to go to the hospital immediately.
Jesus.
No, she actually sent me. I went, so I drive. I get
Mhm.
I get a ultrasound. I don't know what it
Mhm.
is. I can't keep all this stuff straight. I think it was an ultrasound
Yeah.
at a place which is across the street from the hospital. And then the person says, you got to go to the hospital, but they're trying to call it in. So I'm walking across the street and I'm like in complete pain. And I'm sitting outside of the hospital because they won't admit me into the hospital
Mhm.
until they've like processed the images or something. It's this stupid thing. So I'm
I hate
sitting
that.
in the heat of this August afternoon, just
Mhm.
in like terrible pain, just like sweating. And I'm like about to die. I swear
Yeah.
to God.
Like literally dying
Literally
outside
about
the
to die.
hospital.
So then finally they're just, I call this lady and she's like, okay, just go into the ER. So I go into the ER, check in. Turns out my appendix ruptured. But by the grace of God or whatever it is,
Mhm.
something protected me from dying that day
Yeah.
because it abscessed, so it got caught. So I didn't actually get
Okay.
perionitis and
Yeah.
sepsis, which can happen if your appendix
Yeah.
ruptures, which can be life-threatening.
Yeah.
But basically, it ended up abscessing, and over the next course, and then from that point on, my digestion was absolutely screwed. I
Yeah.
could not digest anything. I
Yeah.
thought I was pretty much screwed for life. Like it didn't matter what I ate,
Yeah.
or so I thought. I mean, considering what I was eating pretty paleo at that time, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I was still eating lots of vegetables,
Mhm.
and so they eventually removed my appendix, and then I go into my PCP, and I'm like, I'm struggling with this. Like, I have like IBS or something. Like, I have constant diarrhea. I can't
Mhm.
I can't digest anything.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pooping out full pieces of lettuce and grapes, like just
It's
coming
just
out the same
flowing
way,
through.
just going straight through. And I remember this so vividly. I was talking to you about this. She's like, "Oh, we'll just go home and do the brat diet," which is what is brat? It's bananas, rice, applesauce, and toast.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. First of all, I can't eat toast, so mine's I guess the bra diet. And also, how long? Like, I know that protein's important.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? And this is before I learned a lot, but I knew some at this point about,
Mhm.
I'm like, there's no way that I can sustain on that. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm going to do the brat diet for how long? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to live like that for the rest of my life.
Mhm.
That's not a sustainable diet.
Yeah.
So I just remember, like, walking away from that doctor's appointment and being like, that's the best that they had is the brat diet. And I know they're doing
Yeah.
the best with what they've learned. So it's not a criticism against the doctor.
Yeah.
But it's more of like, it's a systemic issue. Is I'm walking away from
100%.
this appointment, and that's the best they can tell me is go on this brat diet. They don't tell me how long. They just say try it.
Yeah. Well, just to clarify real quick, like a lot of what David and I do is based around natural medicine. So like
Mhm.
not to disrespect or talk down on nurses and doctors because there are a lot of amazing ones out there.
Yeah.
That are their hearts are in the right place, they're trying to do the best they can. They're just not given all the information.
Mm.
So like I don't want you guys to think that we're talking smack on doctors and like nurses. 'Cause
Absolutely.
I have a
Yeah.
lot of friends that are nurses. I know some amazing doctors, and I'm sure you do as well.
Yeah, my PCP is amazing. Like I have no
Yeah.
issue. It's more, and I mean, this isn't another thing is people are always talking about like holistic medicine versus modern medicine.
Yeah,
And it's like
they're
there's not
complementary.
there are times like
Yes.
if I had not had antibiotics a few times in my life,
Mhm.
I would be dead right now. So
Or
it's
surgery.
like yeah, or surgery. So
Yeah.
it's like modern medicine has saved my life. So I'm not
Yeah,
like
it has
dissing
its
it.
place.
It has its place,
Yeah.
but it's not the only medicine. Is the
Yeah. Like a great way I look at it is emergency versus preventative.
Mm.
If you maintain preventative, your diet, physical exercise, mindset, all those different things, it's a huge thing to unpack. But if you maintain preventative, then the odds of you having to use emergency drastically drop.
Absolutely.
Like honestly, before my car accident, I think I went to the doctor 4 or 5 years.
You hadn't been?
Yeah, it was like 4 or 5 years since I've been to the doctor, and I'm like, damn near in peak health. Like, there's all these different things I'm working on and doing and fine tuning, but like, I can't go to an MD for that. They're gonna be like, well, your levels are a little high. I'm like, no, they're not. I'm stressed out. Like, leave me alone.
No, they're not.
But anyway, like right back, back to what you're saying.
So eventually, basically, long story short, I couldn't digest food, and my girlfriend at the time, thank God that she said this. She said, "Oh yeah, well, I go see this German dude named Dr. Wolf, and he does this like weird
with
machine."
two F's, I'm guessing.
Yeah, he does this weird machine where he like tests your energy and it like tests for food. I was like, "Excuse me, you do
witchcraft
what?"
is this?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I swear to God, I like walked into this room and I have so much doubt in my mind about what this is gonna work. I go up to he lives up north. I go up in, and he asked me to take my shoe off. So I'm going in. I'm like, I need to find out what foods I'm sensitive to. But he asked me to take my shoe off. I'm like, what the? Why am I taking my shoe off? Sock off. He puts my foot up on a pillow and he takes this little like, it looks like a little.
Was it like one of the little like electrode wands?
Electron wads, yeah.
Okay.
And then he has me hold something in my hand. I'm like, this is straight out of a movie or something. There's no way this is gonna work. And then he starts plucking at this machine. It's like, and it's making these weird noises.
Sounds like a damn car.
And he's like going through and he's pushing all these buttons. I have no idea what's going on. And I'm talking to him. He seems like a really cool guy, but I'm extremely confused. I'm like, there's no way this is going to work. And he prints out this sheet and he hands it to me. And he's like, these are the foods you can't eat. I'm like, okay. And then he sends me home and he says, you have low hydrochloric acid, so try taking this betaine hydrochloride for a little while to like kind of like to make sure that your food's being digested before it gets to the lower GI tract.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much all he does. And then he also sends me home with like some other supplement. I think he put like cat's claw inner bark or something.
Okay.
Really small
No
adjustments.
enzymes or anything?
No enzymes.
Okay.
The enzymes are in. I took Zypan. So Zypan is from.
Okay.
So Zypan has pancreatin plus the betaine hydrochloride, that hydrochloric acid, and something else. But really small amount of supplements he sends me home with. But he tells me don't eat these foods, and he hands it to me. And one of the things on it, what were the things on it? There was number one was I couldn't eat any nuts.
Okay.
So this was my journey towards. So then I walk away. I stop eating these foods. I start taking the Zypan, and I'm blown away. In 2 days, my digestion's better than it's been in years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? And I realize in hindsight, I've done all the research now, is part of the reason why I can't digest nuts is because they're so full of defense chemicals. They're like some of the most defended foods on the planet.
Yeah.
So I cut out nuts, and then that started my journey over the last almost year now to being where I am now, where my digestion's back to this point.
Oh, yeah. And digestion's, I mean, it's such a difficult thing, too. Like, it's such a fickle beast. Like, anything can affect it slightly. I mean, your stomach, you produce a little bit too much bile acid or stomach acid, and you get acid reflux. Like, the slightest things can throw your gut off. I mean, shit, like cortisol, your stress hormone, if you overproduce it, it'll flip your gut. And then you magically end up with gut issues. And like, I don't know why I have gut issues. Well, if you're so stressed out.
I know, and that brings us back to like those 6 pillars. It's like if your mental state's a wreck, it's like don't expect your body to be functioning at all.
Exactly. Which is why physical is like a little bit farther down, like in how I list them. But like, it's too amazing. Like, especially with, a lot of the other facets of your story, like what you've accomplished, what hurdles, you've overcome, what mountains you've climbed, what, oceans you've crossed. Like, It's literally like seeing some of your, old Instagram pictures compared to seeing you in front of me now. Like, dude, it's like night and day.
I know,
At
and
least from somebody, outside it. And yeah, it just
it's cool, man. It's cool.
yeah.
The same goes to you. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
cool to. I mean, I didn't know you obviously before you got to about where you're at right now. I'd say,
Yeah.
but it's. I mean, you've helped me so much, and it's just. I mean, I can only imagine. I mean, I've seen the pictures of. I've heard the stories. But I've seen the pictures of you on your Instagram before too, and you definitely didn't look as happy. I don't know. I can't talk.
Well, yeah. I mean, their life is. I mean, we're gonna unpack so many things about life experiences because, David, you're what, 23 now? 24 next year. So I'm 27 now, 28 next year. So like, we do have a couple years in between him and I, which is really amazing because like, I meet a lot of young guys that have a phenomenal mindset and that are on such a great path, and they speak all this great wisdom. It sounds like wisdom. And that was one thing that we were talking about the other day, wisdom versus knowledge. Is a lot of young guys have a lot of knowledge. But the wisdom comes with experience. It comes with time. Because you can read. I mean, God, my book collection. Like sitting down, like I'm about 5'9". So if I were to stack my personal development and natural health books, I would have come up at least to my hip, if not higher. And,
it's only just begun.
Dude, I'm just getting started. I'm going to have a study when, I build my regenerative farm and all of that. And, just seeing like the light bulbs turn on in your head when we're having some of these conversations, whether it's about dating, it's about nutrition, it's about diet, it's about lifestyle. Because like they say, oh, you got to respect your elders, age is wisdom. It's really not. It's experience. It's life experience. Because like at 27 years old, I've been through things that some 30-year-olds haven't, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds. I know things that some people don't know. And then vice versa. And even for you, it almost, you're only 23, like saying only 23, honestly, like having it come out of my mouth, like it feels disrespectful because like
it's funny
the amount of experience you have.
I know, and then that's the thing. I was just writing the other day, working on a project I've been working on. It's funny because I think a lot of people can relate to this that probably are the listeners, because the listeners of this podcast probably aren't going to be the people who have just had a clear journey where they just woke up one day and they woke up and they were born and then they've just been healthy ever since. You know, that's not our target demographic, because what we're seeking to do here is to speak about what it means to reclaim your health.
Exactly.
If you feel like you've lost it.
Yeah.
I mean,
so like, how would you define reclamation or reclaiming? Because I know we have that textbook definition.
Yeah, Mark and I looked up the textbook definition, and the first one that comes up is reclamation, the act of reclaiming. It's like that tautological, sort of cyclical.
Yeah, it's like we're going to use the word in the definition.
Yeah.
And then the one underneath that, so it's a restoration as to productivity, usefulness, or morality. So in your words, so we have the definition, but in your words, what would you say reclamation in like 2 sentences, or like 1 to 2 sentences? What would you say reclamation is without using the word in the sentence?
Can I use the prefix "re"? Because it's going to be really hard not to use the prefix "re."
Absolutely,
yeah. Like I'm thinking about the GT's Synergy, the kombucha bottles. They have like all these rewords: revitalize, re-energize, all these rewords. And I mean, that's all that's coming to mind for me. It's like that's what I want. I want a restoration I want a restoration back to, optimum health of all the 6 pillars that you were talking about, or the 3 pillars: mind, body, and spirit, or mental, emotional, physical. And I want that back, because when you're young, you have that, and that's the beauty. That's what I've been obsessed with. Like I think about when I was like 16 years old, and I didn't have a care in the world, and I could go freaking jump my mountain bike off of a huge jump and fall and be fine, and you know what I mean?
Now you get up and you feel like you're 80 years old.
And I could bike straight up a freaking mountain, or I could sprint for like 45 minutes and just like not even get tired. And it's like, I want that again. And maybe it'll never be back to exactly that
Hmm.
point. But I do think that part of the reason why I lost that in the first place isn't just getting old, it's all
Hmm.
these chronic conditions that we're
Yeah.
submitted to, like sitting all the time or eating all these really toxic,
Ultra processed,
yeah, ultra processed
refined,
foods.
shit filled
Yeah,
foods.
not moving our bodies enough. I mean,
Yeah.
we could go on ad infinitum. I mean,
Oh yeah.
even just glyphosate could be like a
A
four
whole
podcast
podcast. Yeah,
series.
I
Yeah.
do. I mean, we could go on and on about glyphosate and herbicides and pesticides,
Yeah,
but
but anyway, like that's what I want. So that was a lot more than 1 to 2 sentences, but I want to be restored to that place
yeah,
of youth and optimum
yeah,
performance.
yeah. No, I mean
What
that.
about you? What is your
Yeah, well, it's very similar, honestly, because like I remember, and this is something you and I've talked about. So like, health is subjective. So we always think back to a time. So like, I used to cut meat for 6 years.
Mhm.
One statistic about meat cutters is they're notorious for being alcoholics. So I was never an alcoholic, but I drank way more
You
than I
drank
should have.
alcoholically?
I like it went down too easy, and it just became a part of my lifestyle.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
during this time, like post breakup, leading to me moving to Colorado, um, I was working anywhere from 50 to 70 hours a week. You know, working out 3 to 4 days a week, drinking probably 6 days a week. And the only time
Mm.
I didn't drink was if I had a pack schedule that day and I had to be up at
You didn't have
3 a.m.
time
the
to.
next day. Yeah, it was just wasn't in the cards. But
Mhm.
even then, sometimes that leftover glass of scotch in the morning. Just like, fuck it, I'm gonna throw it back real quick.
Hair of the
You know,
dog.
yeah, there you go. But even then, like we fast forward now, like the last time I drank was at my buddy's wedding, or one of my best friend's wedding, 2 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And like since then, it's few and far between. It's like weddings, reunions, and even then, like I have one or two, but it has to be like straight liquor if I can find it organic, and it's like there's such a freaking high standard for it. And my level of health, just like you're talking about that reclaiming that youth, was so being able to work, on 4 hours of sleep and doing 70 hours a day, where you're running on like, for me it was caffeine and hate, you know,
Running on caffeine.
running on pure adrenaline and like cortisol.
Mm.
And for me, like health, like reclaiming that health is like it's reaching the optimal level that we all chase.
Mm.
It's revitalizing the body, like you said. Some of these other words, but it's really getting to an optimal health. Like I thought I knew what optimal health was.
That's a really good point too. Is like
Yeah,
there-
what is optimal health?
it's like you said, subjective, and
Yeah.
it changes. It's evolving your
Exactly.
definition.
Yeah, because like optimal health was like, okay, so I can work on 4 hours of sleep. Well, really, is 4 hours of sleep healthy? I mean, there's
No.
countless
I don't
studies
think
of
that
how
there's
it
any
affects.
study out there that
Yeah,
says
that-
that that's okay for anyone. I
Exactly.
mean, just fact check me if I'm wrong, audience, but
Yeah.
I don't think 4 hours of sleep is enough for anyone. I mean,
Exactly.
yeah, if you're talking about 6, maybe for some people, but
You
4.
can get by in a short period of time, but like
Yeah.
for the growing, like in your teenage years, you need that 8 to 10. Like it's
Yeah.
important for your body to recover and to repair and to grow. And then even as you get older, right around that 7 to 8 mark, I mean, there are studies that show that it's optimal for testosterone production in men.
Absolutely.
Your hormone balance, your gut health, your body's ability to cellularly cleanse while you sleep. Like
Muscle growth. I mean,
Oh,
every bodybuilder
yeah.
knows this. Anybody who's ever
Everybody.
bodybuilt or
8 to 10
lifted weights,
hours.
it's like you want gains, sleep your 8 hours.
Yeah,
Like that's
get your 8 hours.
Yeah.
And like even then, like your 8 hours, just because you got 8 hours on the clock, doesn't mean you actually got
Oh.
8 hours of rest. Your
Yeah, this
body
is-
wasn't in a resting, in a resting state.
See, you're like calling me out right now because I'm that guy who like I mean I go through phases, but right now I'm on that caffeine until 5 at night,
Mhm.
and that's the type of thing. I notice it the next morning when I wake up. I don't
Yeah.
feel like hop out of bed. It's like
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I mean it sucks because like sometimes like they have this hustle culture where it's like
Mm,
I'll sleep when I'm dead. It's like okay, but if you structure your sleep, so like let's say, so I have a really strong rule
mhm.
that I try to follow. I do it really well on it some days. Some days I don't, just because things change. I'm either lights out, Like electronics are off by like 9:30,
That's awesome.
and I'm in bed 10:30.
Mm-hmm.
Because 8 out, let's say 10. Let's round it. Let's use round numbers because I like them. If we use 10 o'clock, 8 hours is 6 a.m. But let's say you have to work at 7, and between shower, eating, driving, an hour's not enough. So you got to be up at 5:30. So this 8-hour window that you have to rest, to sleep, to rejuvenate, to revitalize, it keeps getting pushed farther back.
Mm-hmm.
So really, for those that wake up at 5:30, now let's say you're a gym rat. So I used to wake up at 4:30 and go to the gym. The 24-hour fitness I go to, they open at 5. So it's not 24 hours. I don't want to drive 20 minutes to the one that is 24 hours unless I have to. Because driving's inconvenient when you're trying to go to the gym first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
So if we go by 4 o'clock, we're in bed by 8.
And then there's the distinction of in bed versus asleep.
Exactly.
Because it's like some people, I mean, I pretty much hit the pillow when I pass out most nights because I don't know. I think maybe just because you and me were always going so hard.
Yeah, but by the time we actually slow down enough,
Yeah.
it's like we could be sitting up on a couch and we're like, you know. But yeah, I mean, it's, you know, and that's one thing I wanted to ask you about too is discipline.
Mm.
So like a lot of people talk about motivation.
Yeah.
Fuck motivation. Motivation is emotional.
There we go.
Motivation-
That's going back to that full circle to what
Yeah.
we were talking about earlier. Is the emotions. I
Yeah.
don't care about how you feel. I don't care if you feel
Yeah.
motivated.
Fuck your feelings. Like
Yeah.
I literally, it took me 4 years to get this mug because it was a limited release every time.
You say a
And-
mug?
Yeah, it's a coffee mug. It's a big. It's like I have a iPhone 13. So like the height of that phone is the height of the mug. It's a big ass mug. Fit to have a bottle of wine in it too. It says "fuck your feelings" on it, on the front of it. And I was after this mug for so long because I'm not a big coffee drinker. I rarely consume caffeine. If I do, it's from an herbal supplement. It resonated so much with me because when I was on my grind, whether it was work, school, gym, all my beverages go in this glass. And it was a constant reminder of fuck your feelings. I don't care how you feel. Life doesn't care. The sun doesn't stop for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the sun goes down, the sun comes up. Doesn't matter. It doesn't stop. You don't get extra time. We all get 24 hours. It's how we use it. So if you want to go based on motivation and emotion, that's going to change. And you're going to lose time because you feel some type of way. And that's why that mug is so important. And I have motivational posters all around my apartment. And you can definitely tell that, like, there's a specific mindset that I'm after that I have.
Yeah.
Because fuck how you feel. I grew up, my dad was like, you do what is required of you every day.
Mm-hmm.
You do what is necessary, what is needed. You play your part, you do your, you play your role, and that's the bare minimum.
Yeah.
Is you do what is required of you. Anything outside of that's what you want to do. But discipline gets you that.
Mm-hmm.
That's discipline. Motivation. Well, I feel motivated to drive 4 hours to the mountain to ski, but I'm motivated to be in the mountains. But discipline means, okay, like, I mean, I've been looking forward to this podcast for 4 weeks since we planned it, but it's like the discipline is, okay, get your ass up, go to the gym, you hit the sauna, and you shower, you eat. And I'm fasting this. I decided to fast today. I'm going to try something I heard on the podcast.
On another podcast.
Yeah, on another podcast. And got here early because how's that saying go? If you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late, and if you're late, it's unacceptable. So you're always early no matter what. Like we agreed to meet here at 8:45, and I was here at 8:37.
I was too. I didn't know that you were here early.
We just
went to different
parked
parking
it,
lots.
Damn, Google Maps didn't pin it right. But like,
No, that was a user error. Google Maps is
you're
fine.
but like, so what would you say, like, your balance between discipline and motivation, or discipline and emotion?
I mean, that's a great thing to discuss, and the difficult is it's one of those things again where I'm gonna be like give you the not concrete answer. I'm gonna be like, well, it depends, because I hate that answer, but it does because I believe really strongly in discipline, and I believe in doing things you don't want to do to an extent. But I also believe, like, if it starts interfering with your health, I mean, we're
Correct.
talking about reclaiming your health. So
Yeah.
if your goal, your ambitions towards your health are interfering with your health, then
Yep.
it's not you're
You're
not reclaiming your health.
exactly. You're falling
So
farther away.
yeah, so it's like, compromising sleep to go to the gym more.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe every once in a while, maybe that's all right, but
Yeah.
every day, no, absolutely
Oh, hell
not.
no.
Or, saving money and not eating well. If it's talking about that pillar of
Yeah.
financial. Oh, I don't want to buy the grass-fed beef because it's an extra
20 to
dollar an
30%
hour.
more expensive.
Yeah, so it's an extra dollar per pound, so I don't want to buy that meat. So, but there's a balance in there to be struck, and I guess that's where what you and I are always trying to do is seek that balance, because obviously you can't just fuck off and run away and live in the woods. I mean, some of us could, but
I mean, that'd be ideal.
society wouldn't function with that. I mean, I don't know.
Without people like helping.
I know, and
move
it's funny. I don't think that's legal anymore.
No, it's not. They're actually like when they find people that are doing that, they'll go after you for it.
Yeah,
Which sucks.
and you're not allowed to hunt except for specific
yeah
weeks of the year.
And
So
you have
it's
to
like
get tags and it's like
Yeah,
everything's monitored. Like, shut up. They're damn animals. As long as I don't hunt too many. As long as I don't hunt too many, then it's fine.
Yeah, but what do you think about that balance? Like, how do you determine whether you're within that balance, or what does that look like for you?
So I always try to take at least one day, which was yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
to catch up on things. Whether that's because I grocery shop usually once a week, and usually it's a big day.
Mm-hmm.
And so grocery shopping, tidying up around the house, doing the little things that, low impact, that are just, roundabout things. Because I run pretty hard for 6 days.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I go hard for, it just never ends.
Mm-hmm.
And then I burn out. But usually that's controllable. And reaching optimal health, like you figure out ways of managing this high impact lifestyle versus, failing, which I don't like to do. I don't fail, I learn.
There's that
but,
mindset coming back.
but like, like discipline versus motivation, and even with balance, like if you're trying to achieve something, fuck balance. If you're hell on wheels about achieving something, fuck the balance. My social life, my family, my friends. Like if you're in a relationship and you're on a grind, be respectful. If you have a mom, like my mom, loves to hear from me, loves to talk to me. I try to call her at least once a week.
Call your fucking mom. Stop being so fucking selfish. Call your mother. If you're listening to this, call your mother. If she's
Call your mom, call your dad. Like, shit, guys.
Say thank you.
Yeah. Like, I mean, shit, I had a health scare with my dad, and like, this man's like, Superman, bulletproof dude, like never seen anything phase him. And like being faced with like that big of a health challenge, shit, it was a huge wake up call. Like my whole, like everything towards him changed. Even with my mom, like I moved 1,700 miles away, and like we get into an argument and I don't have to call her for a month, which I've done, sorry, mom. But, like, fuck the balance. But the important thing, just like you said, the hustle culture, like, you posted a reel the other day about, the whole, some of you may have seen the video of, like, the guy, like, falling towards his bed, and then he ends up doing push-ups. And you're like, it popped up to you, and you're just like, turn the light off. And,
Here, let's pull it up.
like,
I got you. I'm going to screen record. This is the...
that's the video we're going to talk about, because it's super important. And like sleep is so important. Plus, when you're grinding, like you need to rejuvenate. You have to. But like structure that. So the discipline of, okay, I get in my 8 hours. Okay, well, I worked myself to the bone today, so I need 9 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And you adjust your schedule, but you maintain the discipline. You maintain the routine. But that's, the difference between super successful and normal people is the super successful people have the discipline of the routine, whereas normal people that just go through life are, okay, well, I'm going to sleep 10 hours today, 6 tomorrow, 8 today, 15 another day. It's like, dude, you're not getting more rest. You're flipping your schedule.
Yeah.
You're
and you're stressing your body out.
Exactly.
Because the circadian rhythm is expecting some certain things, you know what I mean? So
You're supposed to go to bed when the sun goes down. Like, it's literally our internal body clock. But yeah, let's get this video.
I just want to show it. So this is basically the trend, and it was a whole trend on TikTok and Instagram that Mark was talking about, where the guy's about to fall into bed and he's doing push-ups. And so then obviously my spin on it is I'm on the right here, so I turn the light off. And what I mentioned in the caption of this is that I'm not saying that discipline's not important.
Mm-hmm.
It is, but we shouldn't be perpetuating this idea that you should
Never stop
you
grinding.
should stop. You should interfere with these basic necessities like eating, sleeping,
Yeah.
taking care of yourself in order to hustle, because, I mean, the truth is you're not going to be as functional that way.
Mm-hmm.
Some people can get away with it. I'm not saying there's not people out there that do get away with it.
Yeah.
Most people burn out. It's like, do you want your long-term dreams? Take care of yourself, and then, and be disciplined.
Exactly.
Don't just try to be so disciplined and hustle all the time, because you're going to fall apart before your dreams fall into place.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like, for all those that are like, with hearing me say, fuck balance, like, I say things very plainly, and I usually have to go back and reiterate them so they're, a little more friendly to most, to most people. But, fuck the balance, or fuck your feelings. Like, a lot of people nowadays that I've noticed, that I've met, they lack the discipline. They lack the structure, and they're okay with letting life push them around instead of pushing back, creating instead of being created. So, with the fuck the balance, like, just like David's saying, like, if you're on a hustle, you're on a grind, no matter what it is, you want to build a podcast, you want to, work on it, you want to master a trade, you're going to school, you're doing, you're perfecting a craft. Like, I mean, Etsy,
Which there's something fulfilling about that.
There
Like, I mean,
100%
that's
is.
why we're here right now. Like, this is not our primary gig, obviously.
Exactly. But it would be great if, helping, coaching, mentoring eventually became our gig. Like, I'm working on building a Patreon right now specifically focused on that.
Mm-hmm.
Taking all of my personal experiences, bringing people on to help shed light. And with balance, like...
Yeah, so what does that process look for you week to week? You know what I mean? Like, because you have to...
It's a grind.
So, yeah, you're
It never
like...
ends.
So when do you work on it? Is it before work, after work?
It's both. When I'm on my break, like from the time I wake up, like I heard this saying years ago. I'll try to find it and throw it up for those of you that are watching on YouTube or even in the comments when we get on Spotify and all that. God, what was it? It was, I'm going to paraphrase it because I can't remember the exact verbiage. Be the kind of person that when the devil hears your feet hit the floor in the morning, he says, "Oh shit, he's up."
Yeah.
Be that kind of person. So the moment I wake up, I'll be talking about metaphysics in the fucking shower. Like, I don't stop. The moment my feet hit that floor, my brain turns on.
Absolutely.
And I run until I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm up at 5:30, I go to the gym at 6, and I'm at work at 9. Between the time I wake up and the time I go to work, it's personal development. Whether it's YouTube videos, like I built a YouTube playlist that I'm going to share on my Patreon that has helped me through the years. There are a lot of people out there that are very impactful. And then when I get off of work, usually the handful of people that I'm health coaching or even my education, that's in the afternoon. Because being at work all day in natural health, like my brain's constantly running, but that's when I get those creative juices flowing to help people in the evening, and I focus on myself in the morning. But it's still, if I wake up at 5:30 and I'm at the gym by 5:45, 6 o'clock, that means my ass is in bed by 9.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the self-care. That's the discipline.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I have to turn my devices off, get all my, like, I used to wear an Apple Watch, and I just switched back to my old watch. And I have my phone, like the phone goes in the bedroom, on airplane mode, on the charger. And the TV goes off by 8:30 unless I fall asleep with it on. The Wi-Fi goes off right before I go to bed. I minimize all my things that are mess with the quality of my sleep. I drink magnesium every night because that helps calm, rejuvenate, and revitalize. And sometimes I'll take some other supplements from Gaia that their herbals are...
Oh, the Calm ASAP?
They call it Calm ASAP.
That one's good. That's good stuff. The
amazing.
skull cap and whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know what else is in it.
Valerian, lavender.
Yeah, that stuff's good.
Yeah, it's
It's funny though, because what is the dose? Like 2 caps? I take like 6.
I think full dosage is 3.
Oh, okay.
Because you can do 2 to like kind of like get like a halfway point. But yeah, and I mean,
Well, and like you're saying, I mean, this goes into the. You're talking about turning off your screens. I love.
Mm.
I love his whole shtick. Papa Swolio, is that what he's
Oh
called?
God, yeah.
But
But yeah,
it's just like turn your screen off. I
yeah.
mean,
Turn the fucking screen off.
don't. I mean, I appreciate social media. Sometimes I
Hmm.
like to do it because it's like turns my brain off. But also, a
Yeah.
lot of time gets wasted just like scrolling through other
Yeah.
people's content. That's time I could be making content, or I
You
could be
know,
taking care of myself.
exactly. Some self-care,
Meditating. Yeah,
exactly.
sleeping.
Sleeping, grounding,
Yeah.
cold, heat exposure. I mean, God, the list never ends.
Yeah.
But to bring everything full circle and to wrap everything up, I mean, reclaiming your health is by no means an easy journey. It's by no means a small task. But one of the things I love that I hear a lot is you become great by doing the small things every day. Greatness is achieved not by doing the big things great. It's by mastering the small things that lead to the big things. So if this is your first step, you're halfway through your, towards the end, wherever you are in this health journey, or you're just like, you know what? Fuck it. Maybe I can learn something, which that's my attitude towards a lot of things. It's like, fuck it. Maybe I can learn something.
Mm.
Take it at your own pace. This is not a race. Reclaiming your health is different for everybody. The
Yeah.
individuals that exist, everyone starts from different places. Everyone does. And it's super important to remember that. Don't compare your chapter 5 to somebody else's chapter 20.
That's awesome.
Because
I love
that doesn't, like, if you take somebody like Papa Swolio, right, who's probably in his 40s, who's jacked and juicy, vascular as hell.
You think he's in his 40s?
He might be.
I don't know. I thought he was like 30.
30s, 40s. I mean, who knows?
Anyway, yeah.
But like
he's jacked. Whichever way you slice
he takes
it.
very good care of himself.
Absolutely. You can tell in his skin too. It's not just
Exactly.
like the muscles, because
Yeah.
you can be ripped, but like you could skin,
Unhealthy as hell.
eyes. I mean, you're talking about doing iridology, like
eyes are, the whites of his eyes are clear. Like there's a lot of things that go into it. But like, so let's say somebody in their 40s is listening right now, and you want to compare yourself to Papa Swolio. That is a losing battle, because Papa Swolio couldn't have been Papa Swolio. He could have been on journey for 10 years, and now he is who he is. I mean, it's almost been 10 years since I got myself off depression meds.
Mm-hmm.
You've been at this, 10, 15 years?
Yeah. I mean, formally for only a couple of years,
Formally
but
for 5,
informally
but like
for a few.
informally, yeah. So like achieving this optimal health, this, balancing all these pillars of health that we've talked about, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, social, like, you don't compare yourself to the people. Comparison is the thief of joy. You will fail if you compare yourself too often to other people.
Yeah.
It's just how it is.
Absolutely.
It's not a competition against other people. It's competition who you were yesterday. That's all it is. You're competing against yourself, who you were yesterday, who you were last month, last week, last year, last decade, to become the best version of yourself, because we have a finite time on this planet. It's finite. We don't know when it's going to end. Like, one of us might not wake up tomorrow. One of us might die in a car accident on the way home. Like,
Have our brain
not bringing that
aneurysm
karma
right
in here.
now.
Yeah, could have a freaking brain aneurysm. Like, we don't know that.
Yeah.
But the importance is to have the discipline to do what's necessary. Have the discipline to take care of yourself. Have the discipline to do what is required of you, but also do things that you enjoy. Do things that fill your heart. Do things that make you happy. But in the same breath, fuck your feelings.
In the same breath, of course.
But
Yeah.
do you have anything to close out with?
No, I mean, this is just, I'm excited for us to explore this question, and we want you all to explore the question with us. So,
Yeah.
I mean, drop comments below. Tell us what your reclamation process has looked like,
Yeah.
what you're curious about. I mean, what do you want?
Yeah, what
next
do you want to
episode?
know?
What do you want to know? I mean,
there's so much.
there's so much.
There's so much.
But it's good stuff. So, yeah, this is the Reclamation Podcast. Shout out to Jacob Sorensen, our producer in the studio. Thank you, Jake.
The man behind the scenes.
Man behind the scenes. And that's all.
Yeah, that's it for today, guys. Love you all. Hope you guys are staying well, staying healthy, staying driven. And we'll see you guys next time.